Okay, so here we are. We're in inflation. We've got problems. Here's what happens with inflation. So there is a internal bottom-up force of inflation, and here's how it works. So you start to feel like prices are going up. So you go to your boss and you say to your boss, "Hey, I need more money because I noticed that eggs and milk and things prices are going up. I noticed the price." So your boss goes, "Okay, we'll give you more money." Okay, and at that point, now you've gone from, let's just say, $10 an hour, or like make it today's dollars, $25 an hour. We're going to give you $27, $2 extra, right? Well, then somebody else comes in, and somebody else comes in. So now what happens is the inflation real? Yes. Are prices going up for the goods that you're buying that are in the CPI, Consumer Price Index, that's in the basket? Yes, they're going up. Now what happens? Those prices go up, and now wages start to go up, and they start going. And then so you gave Steve a raise. Can I get a raise? And it starts snowballing on itself. Whoa. So Nixon sees this. Inflation gets out of control. The money you've got sitting there in the bank decreases in value. It's a tax on everybody. Inflation is a tax on everybody. So you've got $100 in the bank. You check in next year, your $100 is only able to buy $90. You lost $10 of the value. So Nixon needs to do something about this. So he decides, even though my buddy, the only guy I want to see in heaven, Milton Friedman, said, "Don't do this. This is a very bad move." But Nixon says, no. So he tries it in June. It's not having the effect. So then in August 15th, 1971, Nixon comes up with this idea that he's going to make this they're not going to enforce it with a government organization going around enforcing it, but he's telling everybody, don't, well,
the rise in the cost of living.
Yeah, okay.
One of the cruelest legacies of the artificial prosperity produced by war is inflation.
Yeah, okay.
But just as is the case in our fight against unemployment, we can and we must do better than that.
Okay.
The time has come for decisive action.
Here he comes.
Action that will break the vicious circle of spiraling prices and costs.
Yes.
I am today ordering a freeze on all prices and wages throughout the United States for a period of 90 days.
Okay, so no one's allowed to get a raise. No raises. You can't increase the cost of anything that you're selling for 90. We're going to freeze it all. Because remember, it's spiraling. Hey, Jim was just telling me you gave him a raise. Bob got a raise. I want a raise. Now the boss can go, no, Nixon said no raises for anybody. So we're going to stop it, right? Because it's remember, once it gets going, it just starts having momentum on its own. So 90 days, no prices are allowed to increase, no wages allowed to increase. We're just going to crush it, hold it all down.
In addition, I call upon corporations to extend the wage price freeze to all dividends. I have today appointed a cost of living council within the government. I have directed this council to work with leaders of labor and business to set up the proper mechanism for achieving continued price and wage stability after the 90-day freeze is over. Let me emphasize two characteristics of this action. First, it is temporary. To put the strong, vigorous American economy into a permanent straitjacket would lock in unfairness. It would stifle the expansion of our free enterprise system. And second, while the wage price freeze will be backed by government sanctions, if necessary, it will not be accompanied by the establishment of a huge price control bureaucracy. I am relying on the voluntary cooperation of all Americans, each one of you, workers, employers, consumers, to make this freeze work. Working together, we will break the back of inflation, and we will do it without the mandatory wage and price controls that crush economic and personal freedom.
And it failed, right? It didn't work. Can you remember? So Nixon leaves. August 1974, waves goodbye to Nixon. So Ford takes over. Remember? I don't know if you remember this or not. I do. Win buttons, WIN. Whip inflation now. So we're supposed to wear these buttons. So we're putting on a button is going to stop people from asking for more wages and raising the price. This gets out of control. Countries we'd seen before in Germany, where all of a sudden people were burning the German mark in order to keep their house warm. People were being paid twice a day because the cost of a loaf of bread was going up in the middle of the day. So you'd be working, and you'd get paid money, and then you'd run out at lunchtime and buy whatever you could with the money because the money was going down in value while the prices of everything were going up. So people were carrying around their money in a wheelbarrow, right? Right. Inflation once it gets going, it's like a cyclone. It just starts feeding off its own energy. So then Ronald Reagan gets elected, and Paul Volcker comes in and says, I got some good news and I got some bad news. Here's the bad news. Well, we give you the good news first there, Kipper. We're going to stop inflation. We're going to raise the interest rate. It's going to go way up. Now, it's going to be the cost to borrow money, the cost to buy a car, the cost to buy a house, the cost to invest capital in a business. We're going to make it more expensive. I'm going to throw the U.S. economy into a recession. Unemployment goes to 11%, and the cost to borrow money goes way up. And then all of a sudden, it goes, and we go into a recession. And everybody's all upset. Oh, my God, this is horrible, right? We don't want a recession. Well, you want inflation? Inflation's worse. So the recession kicks in when Paul Volcker allows the interest rates to rise. So interest rates go up, inflation's up as well. And then all of a sudden, we had the inflation numbers begin to come down. And then they start to bring the interest rates down as well. And that's what you have. So you squash all of that sort of extra money that's in there that isn't attached to anything. That's what inflation is. When Joe Biden or whoever was telling Joe Biden what to sign, as they wheeled him around from room to room. By the way, those books are coming out.
Don't get off track.
Okay. When you throw money in without anything attached to it, only one thing creates inflation. That is the federal government. So in this case, we threw all of that money in there. All the money goes flying in there. It's not attached to anything, and then you have inflation. So they have Paul Volcker lets the interest rates go up, and then it costs more, slows the economy down, throws us into a recession, 11.9% unemployment rate, and then it squeezes all of that out of there, and then you get going again, and then you had the beginning of some real GDP and some growth in Ronald Reagan's years. Yes, question
so
for
that
the
was
man who seems to not be able to grow hair.
That was at the beginning of Reagan's first term, right?
Yes.
So what period of time was it from when they raised the interest rates to when inflation actually came down?
So then where was the interest rate at that point? I don't think it was like 5-6%. Catching me off guard. I don't remember the exact number of where the balance was.
No, I mean, how much time did it take between when they raised the interest rates?
Oh, about a year.
Took about a year.
Okay. And it was brutal. I mean, if you wanted 17% mortgages, I think that's what people were paying. Car loans were up there as well.
And they knew this was coming.
They had to.
Yeah.
You have to. The economy is like a machine. You have two levers. One of them you pull back on, right? You got two levers. You can push the lever forward. You can make money cheap, and then people buy and they invest, and then the economy gets ripping, right? That's low interest rates. You saw that happen in 2005, 6, 7, where all of a sudden the interest rates were really low. People are buying houses, right? Then the economy really starts cooking. Well, it starts cooking so much inflation can come in there as well. So then you pull that lever back, and now you increase the cost to borrow, which slows the economy down because it costs more. People are not buying things. People are unable to invest things. Capital doesn't go into the production levels, and it just basically puts the brakes on everything. So the federal bank has two levers that they can pull. They can push the one forward, they can make money cheap, or they can pull the other one back and they can make money expensive. When money becomes expensive, everything slows down again. So right now, where we have interest rates at 4%, they have a couple of different moves that they can make. When they were at zero, practically zero, because of the quantitative easing, which we don't need to go into, well, they had nowhere to go. Because then all of a sudden, what are you going to do? You're going to make it less than zero? So in some countries, they actually did that. If you put money in the bank to save, they would tax the money or force you to get the money out of the bank and get the money back into the economy. almost like zero interest, where they were saying, no, we need you to have that money circulating, get it out there. But in this case, so that's what you had. That's how we were able to squeeze it out. And that's where Nixon's thing, price and wage freezes never work. Because as soon as you take them off, it goes back up again. But it was Reagan, Paul Volcker, and Volcker's big move to squeeze by making it more expensive to spend money on things. Okay? Does that answer all that?
It does.
Thank you very much, Gus, for your question.
Can I ask you one more? I don't know if we have time for it. You tell me.
Yes, go ahead.
This is from Jamestown, who said, he asked, can you share your opinion on free market 0% tariffs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, by the way, this goes back to something I was talking about earlier. So, the idea is, we'll go back to 1776 with Adam Smith and the Wealth of Nations. And probably one of the best things he said in there is that it is in every country's best interest always to have every individual buy whatever they want at whatever price they want to pay. So the idea of complete free market, that you're not going to have protectionism. You're not going to protect one industry against something else. You're going to be able to have free trade moving back and forth across all nations. Because as soon as you spark the tariffs in there, then they put tariffs in there, and then you begin to put these restrictions in there in order to protect. So let's go back to 1970 or 1977, somewhere in there, 77, 78, 79, up to about 1980. 1 out of every 4 people in the United States worked for what? Anybody? Anyone? 1 out of every 12. 1 out of every 12 workers.
Auto manufacturers?
Auto manufacturers. That's right. So Japanese come in with smaller, more efficient cars that people seem to like. Well, GM, Ford, and Chrysler are freaking out. They go to Carter. They run in there. The UAW goes in and says, listen, you got to protect us. Please protect us. We need relief in here. And Carter said, nope, I'm not going to do that for you. I can't do that for you. So Carter loses. Reagan gets in there. Prior to Reagan getting in there, in October of 1980, he goes and visits the Chrysler plant, and he sees how the things are being made. He speaks to Lee Iacocca, and he comes up with this idea. He goes to Japan, and he says to the Japanese importers, here's what we're going to do. We want you to sell cars into the United States. We'll let you sell 1.6 million cars into the United States a year. That's it. That's all we're going to ask you to do. Just that amount. Don't keep coming in with more and more cars. And what that did, just for a brief period of time, about 4 years or somewhere in there, GM and Ford and Chrysler were able to retool. They had about a 4-year, window to make cars that would be more energy efficient, that the consumers would want. So Japan said, okay, we'll hold back and we'll wait. And they did. And they respected that. And then finally, from 1980 to 1990, there were 0 Japanese plants in the United States. By time 1990 rolled around, there were about 6 or 12. There are now more than, I think, 1,200 or 2,000 Japanese manufacturers in the United States. So for a brief period, when the big auto industries wanted protection, which would mean put giant tariffs and stop them from bringing in cars that people want to buy to protect the American worker so that they could keep making gigantic cars that were getting 8 miles to the gallon, stop the American from the American consumer from buying what they wanted. Nope. Reagan said, no, we're not going to do that. We will give you a little protection, but then at that point, you're going to have to compete on your own. So that's what they ended up doing. So this is what Trump is hoping to do. He's hoping to have, and we see already, Germany and the UK are coming into the United States because it's cheaper to produce energy over here than it is over in Germany and the UK. And they're starting to build here. So the idea is build here in the United States, produce jobs in the United States, and then from here in the United States, then sell the products you have to the rest of the world. Does that answer that?
I think so.
I'm exhausted.
The question is,
I am worn out.
When will this building begin, and can it be completed by the time the rules get changed again?
Yeah, that's the biggest problem, isn't it? Right. So you're going to have to do something in Congress. They're going to have to pass laws that say that, once this stuff's in place, they're going to have to protect the investments in the capital made in the United States so that we're not changing their rules, not, whipsawing back and forth.
Right.
Yeah. But there might be some method to his madness.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Oh, what? 2020, there are 6,702 Japanese corporations in the United States, employing 3.2 million U.S. workers. There you go. All right. So that, by the way, this is all going to be on the test on Friday.
Oh, good.
Don't look at me like, and there will be extra credit for those of you that are struggling.